Hey, Juicebox.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some exciting news.
I could use some exciting news.
Yep. It only took 60 episodes, but we finally got a legit sponsor.
You're not talking about that $20 my mom mailed us, right?
No, but Juicebox's mom keeps sending that. We can use it on something.
Beer, probably.
Yeah. No, we got a sponsor. I feel like Cole Trickle when he finally got signed by City Chevrolet in Days of Thunder. He put in all of his work. He finally got a sponsor, and now he's racing in Daytona.
Sweet. Mellow Yellow? Is that what his sponsor was?
It wasn't at first, but it looked like the Mellow Yellow car. It was City Chevrolet, then, if I'm not mistaken, Hardee's, and then like Superflow or something like that. Anyway, well, we're talking about Raising Nashville podcast, and this week's episode is sponsored by Two Tours CBD.
CBD, that's like that early 90s R&B group.
Not quite. CBD, which has been all the craze with the kids the last couple of years. It actually helps with all kinds of things. It helps with insomnia. It helps with stress. It helps with your dog's flea problem, apparently.
Have you been reading my diary of problems?
I have not.
Okay, that was strangely accurate.
Yes. Anyway, Two Tours CBD is a full-spectrum CBD products company, including oils, tinctures, and sugars.
Okay, so like you can make some cookies with this stuff?
You can, but they're not the ones that are going to make you feel funny. They're actually going to give a better benefit than that, which, takes care of arthritis. It can handle, like I said, pains in your body, aching pains. It can handle stress.
Yeah, it sounds like we could all use some CBD.
Exactly. With that being said, I want all of our listeners to go to twotours.com/Raising Nashville for your special offer today. Two Tours CBD. We came home together. We grow together.
I think I know what I'm going to spend that $20 my mom sent us on now.
Make sure I get half. Two Tours CBD. Check it out.
Raising Nashville, raising Nashville, raising Nashville, raising Nashville.
Welcome back to Raising Nashville. I'm Bucky.
Juicebox.
Oh boy.
And we are very excited to bring to you another episode of Raising Nashville. As most of our loyal listenership knows, we have not been around for a while. You have not found us on socials. You have not found us on your favorite place to download your podcasts. And there's a reason behind that. A lot of times and what we're going to compare and talk about today on this podcast episode is the fact that we, as a team, took the summer off, just like kids kind of, in air quotes, did this summer. So we ended a 60-episode run back in, what was it?
Middle of June, maybe?
Middle of June, yeah. And then we took the summer to, and like we said on that last episode, to reflect. And, this is an interesting time we're living in. So we wanted to take a moment to ourselves to be able to not research, but study, learn, do things for ourselves and our families, especially given the state of the world right now. But with that being said,
I think saying that the state of the world is interesting right now is an understatement.
Fair enough. It is a major understatement. I'm trying to stay a little bit cool on the surface here.
I got you.
But for those of you who are brand new to the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you're going to enjoy a bunch of episodes that we have for you coming this fall into the winter and then again in the spring.
I think we've got, 30-something topics that we've lined up for these next few episodes?
We have. We've had some meetings. We're excited about the future. And again, for those of you who are just now tuning into Raising Nashville, our podcast is about three dads, old boy Juicebox and I, raising children in the greatest city in the world. Right now, question marks all over the place on that statement. But I consider it the greatest city in the world, and this podcast is about what we do is we do episodes about raising children from the dad's perspective. We do episodes about Nashville, Tennessee, the history thereof, some businesses that are opening, some things that are going on in our city right now, and then occasionally, because we do love it, we do some pop culture things.
Yep.
We might review a movie. We might talk about the latest
Documentary,
music
Fire
festival. Anything that's going on that we really want to talk about, but we'd like to focus on raising children and the city of Nashville because there's so much content there that it could fill up hours and hours and hours and hours, as most of our loyal listenership has heard if you have tuned in for all of our episodes so far.
Yeah.
We're not calling this season 2, but we are back, and we are excited to bring you episodes every single Monday. Without further ado, we are calling this episode
Back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
because given the state of coronavirus and the way that everything in this world operates now, navigating through a pandemic, we know a lot of parents out there are extremely concerned about what is about to happen.
Yeah.
Davidson County schools go back this week. Well, let's say they kind of go back this week. So what we want to do is break down some concerns that parents have, as well as some, pros and cons of weighing the coronavirus versus the kids actually attending in-person classes. We want to go through the pros and cons of remote learning. We also want to go kind of county by county. Anything that touches Davidson County, we want to see what they're doing as opposed to, the city of Nashville and Metro. We want to cover things like, no kids left behind, case statistics and age groups and the spread of coronavirus, and then how public schools versus private schools are handling, back to school, so to speak. So what I want to do first, before we jump into a lot of the concerns and a lot of the things that you guys want us to talk about, is I call this section Let's Recap. And what I want to do there is take a moment to dive back into how school ended in, the spring of 2020, because it was interesting, right?
Extended spring break.
Some could call it that. Some could call it a parent's nightmare and the biggest headache of having their children in their house virtually since March 15th, we'll call it.
Certainly challenging.
So back in March, obviously the pandemic broke. It started, everything started shutting down. We talked about in a previous episode about a basketball game getting called like right in the middle of it.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden you just see cancellations on concerts, no groups over 25, no groups over 10. Wear masks, don't wear masks again. It's just, we are constantly evolving with this pandemic, which nobody, I don't think, alive has ever seen this before. Mm-hmm. So what happened with school was, on that fateful days in March, school was like, hey, we're going to kind of go home for a little bit. And it happened around spring break.
Yeah.
And then we come out of spring break and they're like, oh, it's going to be another week and they'll be back to school. We're like, okay, I can deal with this. 2 weeks spring break, not bad. And then all of a sudden the bomb is dropped and it's like kids will not be attending in class again. We're going to start with this virtual learning.
Right. Distant learning is introduced into the vernacular.
Sure. And we were not prepared for that. As families, as parents, as children, we were not prepared for that. What I want to say is it kind of provided a divide there in the beginning because, when I talk about that, and the reason I wanted to bring this episode and this subject to light today is the fact that those few months, and they were fatal months, April and May and the beginning of June, really kind of put a test to a lot of people. Now, at the same time, a lot of parents were left out of work. 52.3 million people currently are out of work, and this started, back in April. Everybody was being, quote-unquote, furloughed. They were being laid off. A lot of people aren't back to work. So That provided a bit of an ease on this transition, is the fact that, well, people are being laid off. The government passed a stimulus plan where you're getting, an extra $600 or however much you made a month on unemployment, or a week on unemployment. Mm-hmm. So you can stay home, but the problem was some kids at home, especially in the metro area, had computers. Some kids had internet. A lot of them didn't.
Right.
So virtual classes, for example, I have a 10-year-old and he was finishing up 4th grade, which I guess now middle school is 5th grade through 8th grade. So it left a lot of kids behind. This started to become a concern for parents as well as myself. And I know that probably the two other in this room is the fact that, how are kids, especially on lunch programs and breakfast programs, going to be fed?
Right.
What's going to happen in their home life, and the concerns about that? Some kids are in great situations, some aren't. And Asher went to school and he had, some odd 20 kids in his classroom. All of a sudden, virtual learning happens, and I'm looking on these Zooms, and there may be 10 or 11 kids on these Zooms. So they are continuing the education,
right,
with major distractions at home, but they are continuing that education, but some kids are getting left behind. That was not right. So the Tennessee School Board, and more specifically Adrian Battle, who is the head of the Tennessee School Board in Metro, started to develop a plan in beginning of May for this school year. We all assumed on June 9th that kids would be going back on August 4th to in-person classes. July 9th, 1 month later, that was nipped in the bud.
Right.
So they have been working hard, and I'm going to, before we just get off on a tangent here, I want to say I have nothing but respect for the teachers and anybody in the education realm
industry,
in Nashville. I have nothing but respect for what you have done all summer. It could not have been easy. I'm sure teachers are just thinking, hey, this is going to be a normal summer, and then boom, it wasn't. They've probably done more work in the last 3 months than they have, in all summers combined, so to speak.
This is going to have a lasting effect on teachers and like how long they stay in the job, and maybe like even how many people want to become teachers, because this position is already underpaid. Like a teacher is definitely underpaid for what they do. And now they're being like stretched to the limit and being asked to do new things on the fly. I feel like both the school systems, teachers, and like healthcare workers, there's going to be a big stress on those people. And I feel like in the next few years, we're going to see people declining to go into those positions. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's going to be a shortage of teachers and nurses, I think, over the next few years.
And there already was. And, I think at this point in some industries, it's like the burnout syndrome. They are getting mad burnout on what they're having to do, especially at the pay that they're getting,
right,
which is not fair. So I completely agree with you on that. So let's bring us up to today. We are prepared to go back to school this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, for Metro. Some of our surrounding counties are a little bit different. They have actually pushed back a couple of weeks. We're still set, as of today, to go back to school after Labor Day weekend in in-person classes. What I want to cover now is the fact that what is the concern? Because with Tennessee cases on the rise for the coronavirus, we're one of the hot spots. Obviously, we're not going to cover in this episode that downtown is just ruining anything that, we're trying to accomplish. Any back to normalcy we can get, spearheaded by, let's be honest, Steve Smith and all of the downtown bar owners who are losing $10,000 to $12,000 a night because they have to shut down at 10 o'clock and, some of their bars aren't open.
Let's not lump in all those downtown bar owners, though, because there are some that are doing stuff responsibly.
There was this article that came out about 7 days ago. I think it was News Channel 5 who talked about this 10-year-old girl. Her name is Avery Hayworth, and she actually wrote a letter to the downtown bar owners, in specific Steve Smith.
Nice.
In said letter, she said, while adults are partying, keep in mind, she's 10 years old. While adults are partying, walking around without masks, and making the risk rise, kids like me and my friends are wondering if we will ever go back to school again and if we'll ever have a safe play date again. That is sad. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, you've got to hold a little bit more responsibility. It doesn't just involve you and your money and your people and tourism. This is so much. This city is so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's neighborhoods, it's communities, it's schools, it's healthcare, it's all of these things that we need to come back. So let's get into this a minute. With the cases rising and everything going on, is it safe to send kids back to school?
I got a question. Hold on, I'm sorry. Did the bar owners write her back?
As of today, no.
They probably just sent her an envelope full of money and was like, "Shut the fuck up. This is how we handle."
That's
this.
right, yeah.
This
Or-
is how we handle any opposition.
Here's 10% off an app at Kid Rock's Big Donkey Tonk Bar or something.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever get food there? Seriously, like
I every time I go.
you gotta get that loaded hot dog every time.
That's right.
But with cases rising, there are concerns. Let's be honest. People are afraid to, be in groups of people. Now you're talking about sending hundreds of kids back to one building where this spread could easily just get out of control.
like on the surface, when you just say it like that, it sounds frightening.
Yeah. It's
It
like
does.
a bunch of kids in a ball pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of reminds you of that. But at the same time, these kids need this education to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think to succeed from age group to age group, succeed in life in some cases for the older kids, some of the younger kids just need interaction with somebody because it develops all kinds of symptoms.
Absolutely.
And I want to say that there's two sides of this. There's one side that's, like I said, that these kids need this. There's one
They're at a
side.
vital part of their life where they need the education and they need the interaction. You're absolutely right. They
Plus,
have
it's
to
the
have it.
routine. Like kids need to be in a routine. Like their
Yep.
school is just part of the routine. So if you're disrupting that, you're disrupting a lot more than probably that you're not even seeing on the surface.
I was going to say structure, discipline, like you said, routine. That's what school provides. Food. I mean, there's all kinds of things that school actually provides. And so let's get into coronavirus updates in children's ages, because we have heard up until this point, up until like the beginning of July, that kids cannot contract the coronavirus. If they do, it's a very, very small percentage. And right now, and I'm going to have to bring this in here, the Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, whatever you want to call her, bitch.
Call her. Never mind. I won't say what I would like to call her. On
Sure.
Here.
She says, and Donald Trump is supporting of this, is she said kids are actually stoppers of the virus, which is the stupidest thing. Stoppers. They're like the virus gets to them and their body's immune systems are so good that they just cut it right there. Like it just stops with them and they don't get sick and they eliminate it. So basically kids are the cure, according to Betsy DeVos.
We should put kids in bars then. Downtown.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
They can just
Instead of,
like
plastic
hang
partitions.
kids from the ceiling so they absorb all the coronavirus.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like air filters.
I bet Steve Smith would pay for that.
Probably.
Weird.
Hey, 10-year-old, I'll offer you a job.
So that's actually not the case, and that's probably a given. But I started to do some research on it about stoppers of the virus. The American Academy of Pediatrics said that currently in the United States, there are 241,904 child cases of coronavirus. But with the 241,904 child cases, that actually makes up 8% of the population who has contracted the coronavirus. From July 2nd, this is a crazy stat, from July 2nd to July 16th, which has actually excelled a little bit since then, there was a 46% increase in children contracting the coronavirus, according to these numbers.
Let me just jump in and add on to those stats right there, because I have more of like our Tennessee stats. Like here in Tennessee, there's been, as of a couple days ago, there had been 7,500 cases like across the state of Tennessee from kids 5 to 18. Just in Davidson County alone, there's been 1,451. And you have to think about, that's without kids being at school. That's without kids being at daycare. Well, a lot of daycares were shut down for a while there. Now that most of them are still back up or opening back up. But you got to think, I mean, that's before kids were even intermingling. So
Sure.
Well, you still got some camps.
That's two major public schools full of children, 1,400 kids.
Yeah. You still have some things, and there's some sports going on. So there's some activities kids are still mingling, I guess.
Sure.
Right, but not in like
Not on a grand scale.
yeah, not
like it
the
was.
same as school. So that's what I'm just saying. Like, how much is that number going to jump once
if you put them back.
Sure. And I want to add on that according to the census, 3.3 million adults ages 65 or over in the United States currently live with school-age children. So now that's where the concern comes in.
Yep.
Is the fact that these kids potentially are going to go back to school, get the virus, be asymptomatic of it, go home, give it to their grandparents die. And
then where's that kid? In the system?
No.
Like, come on.
Completely agree. For the people who are for, kids not going back to school, being protecting themselves, protecting everybody else is something that we need to be concerned about. Those are the facts. And, these aren't numbers we're padding to try to make, parents feel a little bit better about having to stay home, because there is concerns there, and we're about to dive into that. But before we do that, I want to talk about remote learning. And this is something that we're going to have to get used to, kind of like the term social distancing. I mean, this is something that probably did not exist before this pandemic. At least I'd never heard it. There are pros and cons of remote learning, I guess. I don't see that many pros. We've already talked about, some of the cons. They need discipline, they need structure, they need, education, food, things like that. Just a daily balance of life.
Go ahead. I've got a pro for it.
Okay, give me the pro.
So we had some concerns with Sam in school. We met with her teacher probably a couple of weeks prior to everything getting shut down, and it was talking about Sam's attention span, and she's kind of aloof sometimes, blah blah blah. But Stephanie has been at home with her and teaching her and going over instructions and lessons and projects, and the kid is fucking smart. Like, the kid's getting it. She's with it, man. She's doing math. She's reading. The kid can read.
So could you say that school potentially was a distraction because it's more about your friends and interacting with them?
Could have been in her case. I mean, she was. I don't know. I wasn't in the class with her, but talking with the teacher sometimes, it just seemed like her head was somewhere else. So, but Sam, like, one-on-one with Stephanie, has just really excelled. So it's been a plus there. But she's missing out on a lot of interaction that is clearly, I think, very important.
Right.
Which is incredible. And we're so thankful that you have a wife that, invests her time and stuff like that. We've been trying to work with Asher, but it's not easy with two people having jobs. Now, let's talk about that, because on the flip side of that, there are a lot of kids in bad situations where their parents do not want to spend the time trying to educate them because they're worried about, other things in life, how to put food on the table, how to make, rent, things like that. And they have to work. Or some of them just don't want to spend the time with their children, which is sad, but it does exist. Yeah. And you have to say that. So in regards to remote learning, that's, that is one thing. A con is, we've talked about it already on this podcast, distractions. If your kid is in their own bedroom in front of, a Chromebook, they are distracted by things in their bedroom. They are constantly wanting to probably get up and go to the bathroom anytime they want. There's no structure of this is bathroom time, or this is, lunchtime is a bell to a bell. At our house, it's been a bell to a, hey, we forgot about, he's still watching this YouTube video, this guy playing video games, and his lunch has been done for 30 minutes. Yeah. It's kind of hard. Another thing is Zoom classes. Internet connectivity, not always the best. It's going to cut out. I think Juicebox and I were in a house where Asher was on a Zoom call with a class this summer, and he started to break down because the internet connectivity started going out, and he wasn't getting, the full information that he needed.
Yeah, and that can be super frustrating. I can see why he was getting so worked up about it.
It's frustrating on the phone with us adults and talking to other people, and the phone cutting out,
Yeah.
Or our internet connectivity, or if Netflix isn't working correctly, or freezing.
I mean, I can just speak from personally, like, we do a lot of online, Microsoft Teams meetings with work now, and, sometimes if Dana's in the other room on a team meeting or whatever, sometimes the internet kind of lags a little bit, and it's like, even as an adult, I'm getting frustrated on that. So
sure, this is definitely, I think Zoom classes are great in their own right, and teachers are trying, and they want to deliver the information and provide this education, but there's a lot that can go wrong there.
It's something that would need to be worked on for years to perfect, and we've just been it's been forced on everybody within a couple of weeks. So it's just, I mean, it's going to take, if this is a thing that keeps going forward, it's going to take several years to work out all the kinks, you know?
No, I mean, I'm impressed, though, with the way things have been handled on the fly, though. I think that...
Without a doubt. I'm not trying to discount that
Oh,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah. But, I mean, it is... I think... I don't know. It's kind of cool in a way because people have adapted really quick. As you know, in the education side of it and the work side of it, it's very interesting. I mean, people are adaptable. I think I'm proud of humanity for it.
Sure. Another thing kids are going to have to deal with remote learning is at-home work assignments. Now, this is stuff that comes like is emailed from your teacher to a parent, and you have to. Another thing is a lot of people don't have printers in their home, so you got to print a lot of this out and make sure your kids are staying on task. That's one of the hardest things is in school, again, structure is task, bell to bell. This is the time you do this. This is the time you do that. What I am very proud of, like old boy said, is metro schools have put together distance learning kits. And you can go to any one of your schools that you're assigned to and pick up these distance learning kits. And what that does is it provides pencils, papers, protractors, rulers, things that really affect and associate to the kid and the certain age group that they're in. Another thing is, and I want to get into it in a little bit more, but we talked about concerns with internet connectivity and availability of computers for Zoom classes.
Right.
Now, they have worked since, they were giving some laptops out in the spring. Now, we've heard horror stories of parents pawning these laptops. A couple of them were found in a pawn shop in Nashville or taking the laptops and selling them to their friends or things like that. What they've done now is they've actually worked with Dell computers to transition these laptops to only deal with what the kids are learning. So it doesn't have all the extras and all of that stuff.
Right.
I'm very proud of it. As much as I have issues with our current mayor, John Cooper, I'm going to have to give him mad props on this, is he actually took $24 million out of Nashville's Federal CARES Act to apply to computers and internet connectivity, which is a big part of it.
Yeah, gotta have that.
So if you don't have a laptop, and currently there are about 84,300 kids in Metro Davidson County that do not have access to a computer, that Dell has created 90,000 laptops that they are loaning to families. These laptops cost about $200 each, and the rest of the money of that $24 million is actually going into putting internet in people's homes.
Man, that's great. Internet is one of those things that's so essential now. It almost needs to be like regulated and just become like an essential thing. Like it doesn't need to be private corporations fleecing the hell out of us for the internet because everybody needs to use it. And this is the perfect example of why. I don't know what you guys have. We have Comcast. The shit is fucking expensive as hell. Like no matter what package you get, it's expensive as hell. And I can imagine like, a few years back before Dana and I both had really good jobs and we're making good money. Like, we were struggling, so it would come around like half the time the internet would get cut off like for a couple days during a month because shit's like $150 or something.
Yeah, it was at Silicon Valley on HBO where the whole show was about trying to create free internet.
Yeah,
I mean the alternative internet, which that should exist.
Yeah, it absolutely should. I mean, it's like obviously it's not like water, but I mean it's like electricity or something. Like you got to have this. It's
at this point to stay connected with anything. I mean, that's it. And all right, so there are pros and cons of, remote learning. We've dealt with it a little bit. We saw what we call the previews probably back in the fall, but it's about to get real because, all of a sudden kids go back to school, potentially, let's say, after Labor Day. And the next part we're going to get into is how schools are and will be operating for now, is the fact that, Davidson County versus the surrounding counties, or even public schools versus private schools. So what I wanted to do is kind of dive into that because I did some research on things. As most people know, if you have a child in Metro Davidson County, they are going to be virtually learning until Labor Day. And then they are going to attempt to send them back to school in person.
After huge Labor Day parties.
After spikes because of Labor Day.
Right.
But there are surrounding counties that are handling this a little bit differently. A few of the counties are, and I found some interesting stuff in this part. A few of the counties are actually pushing for 2 weeks. So they were originally going to, open on, say, August 4th, 10th, or 17th. Now they're going to push that back for 2 weeks. It's also very interesting that the people are trying to get creative and say that, there is a hybrid learning model in some of the surrounding counties where kids would be going back, like, basically, some counties are kindergartners through 8th graders will return at 100% capacity for 5 days a week. High school students will return at 50% capacity using a hybrid learning model. The way that they kind of break this down is it's by the first initial of their last name or the grade, and those are the days of the week that you're going to go. So you could go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 week, Tuesday, Thursday, the next week. So it cuts schools to 50%. And the operations, it just kind of, it blows me away. Obviously, we're under a face mask mandate here in Nashville, so face masks obviously are going to be required within schools and common spaces such as hallways, lobbies, libraries, break rooms. They're encouraged inside the classrooms, but not required.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because I thought that there was a really strong pushback against requiring kids to wear masks. So they are required to wear masks, but only in the hallways.
In the public spaces, yeah. Another thing that, is concerning, well, not concerning, but what steps that they are taking is breakfast and lunch will still be served to these kids. Kids on the free lunch program, that's, obviously going to happen in school. But all meals will be prepackaged by the cafeteria staff. Kids will go to the cafeteria at their assigned times. They will pick up their meal and they will return to their classrooms, where their desks are 6 feet apart, and in some cases have glass or plastic or acrylic partitions between each desk. Now, bus transportation, because this is a big one. They are encouraging, there's like a PSA out there for all parents to drive their kids to school now.
Not possible.
Not at all. Not even in the least. But because they have to limit the amount of kids that are on buses. Another issue was you had until July 22nd at 4 o'clock to complete the required paperwork to allow your kid to ride on a bus now. There are a lot of different plans out there, and I think they're going to take it county by county on, who develops these plans and how they're approved. Obviously, they want the best education for all students, but you got to think about. Another thing that I've read is, procedures are in place to manage and mitigate risks for our students and staff while maintaining and providing a quality and equal education for all. Now, that is not possible. And that was my biggest concern and kind of one of the reasons that this episode has come to light today. One, private schools are going back. I've got one kid in private school and one kid in public school. Private schools are ignoring this. They're requiring masks or taking the CDC steps, but that's it. No assemblies, no sporting games, no things like that. But they are saying that we are going to be open hell or high water. I hate to say that because most of the private schools in Nashville are Christian, but
they're not ignoring it. I mean, they're changing the way they do everything to allow students to come back.
Sure, but kids in public education have to stay home. Private school can go to school, public can't. It just seems like there should be somebody on top of all of this saying, hey, this should all be equal. We should all agree. And I know that is not feasible, not possible, but this is going to be detrimental. And, what about the schools that are underly funded and, schools that have a little bit more in a better county, say like, what county is Franklin in?
Williamson,
right? Williamson County is obviously different probably than Wilson County. Then, a couple of other different counties, they have a little bit more money that they can allocate towards schools. So kids are going to be in different learning tiers here.
Right.
And I think this is going to be a long-lasting effect.
Yeah. So,
and it is concerning. And again, to go back to it, the reason I brought this up is because I'm deeply concerned with people who are in kids specifically who are in bad situations, and the people who, are anti-coronavirus, send our kids back to school. I don't want to go as far as saying selfish, but it kind of is saying, I've got work to do. I can't be watching these kids all day, stuff like that. Well, there are kids in bad situations all the time. they're even with school in, even, with them riding the bus, with them, eating. And my concern is kids, while they have developed a nutrition plan, which is great, that you can go pick up your meals, your free lunch. If you're on that program, free lunch and free breakfast, you can actually go to the school and pick that up for the week. You can take it home. You can, consume it at home. My biggest concern is some of these people don't have transportation to get to these schools.
Right.
Some bus stops, city bus stops, don't drop off near these schools. Some of them do, but, or you have to walk quite a bit after you get dropped off on the city bus to pick up your food to bring it home. In certain situations, you could bring that food home and it could be consumed by your family in one night because it was allocated for you as a child,
right?
To get through the week. And some
Like a
families
lunch
rely
meal.
on this to get them through. What about, the parents that are working paycheck to paycheck just to keep food on the table and, the rent paid, but they both work at, let's just hypothetically say, fast food jobs.
Right.
What's going to happen to their children over these next 3 to 4 weeks? They can't quit their job. And if they do, they're going on unemployment that's paying them less. And, it's just like there's so much help out there that doesn't exist. And you've got to wrap your head around this entire thing. You've got to wrap your head around equality for all. And that's a big thing is I don't want kids getting left behind because of what class they're in.
Right.
I don't want, because this is your situation. Life has handed you this. You're going to be struggling as opposed to, some of the people on this side who can be stay-at-home moms, who can, afford a tutor to come over or somebody to come teach their children. Or, you can do this. You have the patience for this. Some people don't. Their lives are different, and you have to realize that. That has to sink in. And my whole thing was, lately I've been researching what I can do, anything that I can do, whether it's go sit in a tent outside of McGavick and hand out food or hand out these distance learning kits. I saw the Tennessee Titans actually spent the 2 weekends in a row handing out distance learning kits to kids. And that's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
The whole thing, the future is about our children, and
Right.
the future needs to change. We see that the times we're living in, these kids are going to be the ones who change us, so we cannot leave them behind.
The ones that you were talking about, the travel aspect of it, so is there anything like a drop-off food service, like a
Currently, there's not, and that was an issue because I reached out to the Metro Nashville Nutrition Department to ask about distribution, and they said that right now the resources only provide going to the schools and sitting under basically a 10x10 tent and handing this stuff out. I literally said in an email, I said, I have a truck, I'll go pick it up, give me some addresses, I'll go take it to people. It's a struggle, and this whole thing is a divide, and it's just further, like I said, pushing us further and further away from everybody being on the same page, getting the same start. And that's what sucks. And I want to say, for people out there who are wondering if schools are actually going to go back, what happens when a kid in the school, one of the elementaries in Davidson County contracts coronavirus, their parents call the school and say, hey, my kid has the coronavirus, we got him tested. You shut the school down for 2 weeks? I mean, does this turn into snow days? Like, how does this, is this going to work? Is it going to work? So I started to do some research on that, and this is insane that Williamson County and a lot of the surrounding counties, and Davidson is not too far off from this, is the fact that in-person learning won't exist until 0.5% of the county has not contracted the coronavirus day over day. If 1% of the population of that county increases in coronavirus, they will shut schools down again until it is 0.5% or lower. And that's a pretty low. I mean, that's a high number or high percentage. Like, you're saying basically kids are not going to go to school until we get this under control as a county.
Yeah.
And under control meaning pretty much it's got to be gone.
eradicated?
Yeah. So what happens then? And what happens? I know that it's kind of like a teaser. It's kind of like at the beginning of summer, concerts were still going to happen. They were just going to be delayed 3 months.
Right.
You know, Bonnaroo was going to happen in June. Coronavirus hits. It's going to happen in October. All of a sudden, we cancel Bonnaroo, right? I think that this Labor Day initiative is just to hold out a little bit of hope for parents that, they can actually get back on schedule with their lives come after Labor Day.
Yeah, and I think everybody's still hoping for a vaccine or treatment, is coming down the pipeline. So once we have those things in effect, we hope to get things under control.
But it's not going to happen in 3 weeks.
No, it's definitely not.
No, it's not going to happen in 3 weeks.
And I feel like it's more detrimental to like bank on that, and then at the last second you push it back or whatever. You say, no, we're not going. It's like people, if there's a chance you're not going to be going back to school, people need to know about that right now so they can start making plans for it.
Sure.
And there are a lot of questions out there. As of, July 26th, which was, last week, there had not been a really updated report unless it's on the Metro Nashville Public Schools Facebook page. Like there wasn't any reports out online since July 9th. This should be as important as the mayor's 2 times a week updates on coronavirus on Tuesday and Thursday.
100%. Like these board meetings, school board meetings, or whoever it is that's making these decisions on this needs to be like public. I'm sorry. I'm sure it is public, but it needs to be televised. Like you said, there needs to be updates like on what's going on. Yeah. Parents need to know.
And we've got to figure this out. And it's not easy to navigate. I'm sure that you guys are going through a lot of the struggles and pains. We don't have answers for you other than the fact that if you do have the resources and time to donate your time, donate your money, there's places that you can go out there like I think it was mnps.org. You can, donate into this. You can volunteer for schools because they're going to need it, I think, coming up. They say that they don't need it now, but they will. They're going to be inundated and overwhelmed.
For sure. And I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. And
let's do it.
Okay. It's going to make me sound like a socialist, which I maybe don't really have that much of a problem with. But I work for a company that has embraced helping the employees during this thing. I work for an essential business that's never closed during this. They've given our team members that initial bump in pay, hazard pay or whatever you want to call it, during that thing, which a lot of companies did, like Kroger's and other companies, but then they ended up rolling that back after things started to open back up. Instead of that, our company made those bonuses or made those pay increases permanent and gave people more bonuses. And they just announced that they are putting aside $500,000, which, it's a lot of money. Maybe could be a little bit more, but they're putting that aside to just buy Chromebooks for our people that work at our stores that don't have enough money to afford that themselves.
Sure.
So it's I feel like more of these giant corporations need to step the fuck up and start donating money for that, either for internet service or meals or computers or school supplies. It shouldn't just be on us who are facing the same dilemma. A lot of people are not working or they're working less. It's not on them to be donating money to make this work.
Sure.
Come on, there's corporate, Jeff Bezos made $38 billion in one day a couple weeks ago. Step the fuck up, Jeff Bezos. You don't need all that money. You're never going to spend it all in your life. Let's try to make this country a little bit better. Let's try to, like Bucky said, get all the kids on the same fucking level.
Yeah.
Sorry to cuss so much, but I'm pretty heated about this too.
Yeah, and make yourself look better, Jeff. I mean, it's,
I don't know if he even lives on this planet anymore.
I mean, he may not. He's one of those reptilian people that lives in the middle of the planet or whatever.
Well, we're going to tag him in this podcast and on our socials, so maybe he'll tune in and heed our advice. But you're right. There are a lot of companies out there that have surpluses of money that could help out. It's not on government. It's not on our taxes. It's not. I want to help out because I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, and that's respectable, and I love that. I'm just saying, I don't think it should just be on all the regular people,
right.
These people that are making billions of dollars off people being at home or essential services like Walmart. Come on, man. I don't know what Walmart's donated, but whatever it is, it ain't fucking enough.
Sure. Okay. Well, obviously at this point we're at a grip and hang on stage. Nobody's seen anything like this. There are 2 sides to this. We are very seriously focused on our children. We all have children in this room. Most of you out there listening to our podcast have children. There are a lot of concerns. If you, and I'm just going to plug this, if you know or yourself is in a position where you need help, please pick up your phone or whatever, your computer or whatever you have, and DM us and tell us a story, and we will do anything in our power to navigate you to that help.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a community here. We're all going through this together, but in different ways, and that's something that we have to understand and comprehend. Is we're not equal, and education is not equal.
No.
And we want to do anything we can. So if you're struggling, if you know somebody that's struggling that needs anything, that needs, food, or somebody to spend 2 hours with your kids, just get in touch with us. Find us on our socials, obviously, Raising Nashville Podcast. Just Google it, look it up on Instagram. I think we have a Twitter page and Facebook and stuff like that. We loved getting back into this brand new studio. We've actually moved, so we're going to be here for the long term and the interim. We'll come back with some more light episodes, but we don't need to say that. If there's something that we want to talk about, if there's something out there that you want us to look up, research, discuss for the masses, feel free to, again, shoot us a DM on any of those. Thank you so much for coming back with us.
Yep. Hope we weren't too heavy for the comeback episode.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're just happy to be back. We'll see you guys every single Monday.
Tell your mama and them.
She already listens.
We hope you guys enjoyed listening. If you don't have children,
Have one.
have one.
Catch up.
Yeah. We want you to know what we go through.
Yeah. The fear.